welcome to our Arthur Murray family. My name is Mario Ornelas, and I am the franchisee of the Arthur Murray Dance Center in Reno, Nevada. In this edition of Arthur's Footprints, we will be learning Cuban Motion. Now, Cuban Motion is our most essential styling for the Latin dances, so it is important to learn the proper pieces to create this action. So let's get started learning a little Cuban Motion. So layer one, stationary motion. Right? When I teach stationary motion, I like to teach this with a formula. And the formula is this: A plus B equals C. Right? So we're going to be practicing our Cuban motion with our feet together and not moving. So the first part of A is going to be toed out feet. So I want to make sure, if you look at my feet, that my feet have a little bit of toe out. So my heels are going to be together, but my toes are going to be separated. We want to watch out. We don't want to practice with our feet parallel. This is how we would use our feet in smooth dances. We want to separate the balls of our feet a little bit, still keeping our heels together, right? Be careful. We don't want to toe out too much, right? It makes it uncomfortable. So I want to find a nice, comfortable spot and have my feet toed out. So that's the first part of my formula. A is toed out feet. The second part, B, is the knees. And the knees in Cuban motion bend and straighten, bend and straighten, bend and straighten, bend and straighten. So that's the main part of Cuban motion, is bending and straightening the legs, right? One thing I want us to be aware of is that the leg that bends is also the leg that's going to straighten. I'm going to bend, straighten, bend, straighten. So I always like to think, I always have one leg doing all the work every time I step in Cuban motion. So I'm going to bend my left, straighten my left. Bend my right, straighten my right. All right? So one thing I do want to point out as well is I want you to, when you bend your knees, just to go ahead and bend your knees straight forward, right? So just point straight ahead, right? So I bend my right and my knee goes straight ahead. Watch out for bending out to the side, right? That starts to make everything feel a little bit uncomfortable, all right? So one thing I call that an indented leg line. So when I bend my knee is on the inside of my hip and my foot, that plane. So it's a little bit indented. So that's why I like to call that an indented leg line, all right? So that is our A plus our B. Now, it equals C, and what's C? C is actually the hip movement, right? So if I have my feet toed out and I bend my knees, right, my hip moves, right? I straighten that leg, bend the right, and my opposite hip moves, right? Your hip will always move into the leg that is straight. So we go bend, hip movement, straighten, bend, hip movement to the opposite side. When your hip gets in there, it'll settle nicely into the socket of your hip. When it settles, it won't move anymore, and just leave it there. We like to refer to that as a settled hip. So once your hip settles, you're done. Then you can straighten the other leg and bend and settle. Straighten, bend, and settle. All right? And that is my layer one, stationary motion. Layer two is first position breaks. Now let's get started with the exercise of first position breaks. So the first thing I want us to do is we're going to move forward with our left foot. I'm going to move forward, and I'm going to close my feet and change my weight. Now I'm going to move backwards, close my feet, change my weight. I'm going to move side, close my feet, change my weight, move side, close my feet, change my weight. All right? Now, obviously I can do that on both sides, so let me do it on the right side as well. So I'm going to start with my right foot, right? And I'm going to step right foot forward, together, together, left foot back, together, together, right foot side, together, together, left foot side, together, together. All right? And that's the exercise on the right foot, right? It's important to practice on both feet because we do use both feet all the time. All right? So one of the things we want to do, and one of the things you're going to hear a lot when learning Cuban motion, is that when you're learning, you want to make sure you step on a bent leg, right? So you're going to hear your teacher say it. You're going to hear Arthur Murray coaches say that. It's a really important part to stepping on a bent leg just to get everything in the right place, right? So one of the things that I like to do is I like to think of when you're moving your feet. For right now when you're learning your Cuban motion is I want you to keep your feet flat on the floor, right? So basically what I like to do is when I'm going to move forward, I'm going to slide my whole foot on the floor. So the heel and the ball of the foot are in contact with the floor. And then when I close my feet, I'm going to keep that foot also sliding in with the whole foot. I'm going to change my weight. I'm going to slide that foot back, slide it together, change my weight. I'm going to slide it to the side, slide it together, change my weight, slide the whole foot to the side, close with the whole foot, and change weight. All right? That really helps us keep our feet on the floor. All right? So we want to make sure that encourages stepping on a bent leg, sliding that in as we move, back, slide it in, right? So that helps us step on a bent leg. All right? Now, our layer 3, that is breaks in 4 directions. So what we're going to practice in this, is we're going to practice how to start doing our Cuban motion with rock steps or with directional changes, right? So we can have rock steps that break forward and then back, close, and forward and back, close, side and side, close, side and side, close. So that's our breaks in 4 directions. Obviously, we can do that with the other foot as well going forward. So I can do a forward, rock back together, forward, rock back together, side, rock side together, side, rock side together. So that's our breaks in 4 directions. One of the things that I want to make sure that I'm doing on this is just like going back to layer 1 and layer 2, I want to make sure my knees are still bending and straightening, right? And I'm still right now keeping my whole foot on the floor. So as I move forward into my first break, I want to move forward, sliding my whole foot. Now, I'm going to leave my feet in place as I change my knee and bend the other to create a rock step. That happens to be a forward to a back. I'm going to close my feet, keep my foot on the floor, slide it forward, create a rock, back, slide the foot, step side, change weight, close, side, in place, and close. So even though we're working on layer 3, we're going to incorporate the things we've learned in layer 1 and layer 2, right? Those are the 3 layers of Cuban motion to help organize your feet and knees. So when you are feeling comfortable with those layers, I like to move into different types of Cuban motion. And these are basically rhythms or speeds of Cuban motion. And the 2 types that I would like to start with is, we call it Rumba Action and Merengue Action. Right? So let's start with Rumba Action. Rumba Action, I like to say, Rumba Action has the 3 S's, right? We have a settle, we have a step, and we have a straighten of the leg, right? We go forward, we can go back, we can go sideways. So let me demonstrate that. So what I'm going to do, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to settle and bend the leg, all right? Then I'm going to step forward, and then I'm going to straighten the leg, and then I'm going to settle again. Right? So Rumba Action to me is a full Cuban motion. So we're really demonstrating all the parts. So we're demonstrating the settling of the hip, the stepping, and then also the straightening action, right? So we get a settle, we get a step, and we get a straighten, right? So then I would settle, step, straighten, right? So that's our Rumba Action. So we create a full action. I can obviously go backwards. I can go settle, back, straight, settle, back, straight. Does that make sense? So that helps me go forward and back. I can do it sideways as well. So I can go settle, side, straighten, settle, together, straighten, settle, side, straighten, settle, together, straighten. Right? So that is our Rumba Action. Like I said, the 3 S's, settle, step, and straighten. The second action that we talked about was Merengue Action. Now, Merengue Action to me is just a switching action. I'm going to be using all of the layers, the bending, the settling, and the straightening, but we're just going to now make it much quicker. So basically what I like to think of is I'm going to settle and step, kind of in the same motion, right? So I'm going to start here. I'm going to settle and step, right? So then I'm going to straighten, settle, and step. Straighten, settle, and step. So I just kind of try to get a switch. Let's go the other way. Switch, switch, settle and step, settle and close. Settle and step, settle and close. All right? We can do this going forward as back as well. So I can go settle and step, settle and step, settle and step, settle and step. Backwards. Settle and step, settle and step, settle and step, settle and step. All right? So Merengue Action is just a little bit of a faster action. All right. So when we're learning the Cuban motion and we learn these two different types, how do we use them? Let's take our 4 general Latin dances. We're going to take rumba, we're going to take cha-cha, mambo, and merengue, and we're going to work on the basics to that. So we learn how to use them. In rumba, I like to start out this way. I'm going to first on my slows do rumba action, and on my quicks, I'm going to do merengue action just to start us out, so I can demonstrate that slow, quick rhythm, right? So when I dance rumba, I'm going to dance rumba action first, so I'm going to settle, step, straighten. Now what I'm going to do when I go to the side for my quicks, I'm going to go switch, switch. Then I'm going to settle, step, straighten. Then I'm going to settle and step, and switch. Settle, step, straighten is my rumba action. And then merengue, merengue. Rumba, merengue, merengue. So that's how I'm going to demonstrate that in my rumba to start with. All right. The next piece is cha-cha, right? So cha-cha, for the time being right now, we're going to use rumba and we're going to use a little bit of our merengue for the cha-cha part. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to step sideways. When I step side and do my rock steps, those are going to be a rumba action to start developing our Cuban motion cha-cha. When I go side close, I'm going to use my merengue action. So watch. We're going to go settle, step, straighten, settle, step, straighten, settle, step, straighten, switch, switch, settle, step, straighten, settle, step, straighten, settle, step, straighten, switch, switch. So I got rumba, 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 merengue, merengue, rumba, 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 merengue, merengue. And that's how I'm going to incorporate that in my cha-cha to get started. The next piece is mambo. Now, mambo is one of our faster Latin dances, so we're going to implement just all merengue action in our mambo to get us to start. So one of the things I want to do is I'm going to start with just rocking, but I'm going to switch right away. So I'm going to settle and switch, switch, step side and switch, step back and switch, forward and switch, side and switch. So I just get merengue, 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 right? And that's how we're going to start to use that in our mambo, is just really get us a good start with our merengue action in our mambo. Now, obviously, our merengue basic, right, our chassés, and we're just going to do our switching action, just like we did in mambo, straight count, all the way through. Since that's the dance where it comes from, we're just going to switch into that, okay? So let's take a little bit of a recap. So we talked about Cuban motion being the essential styling for our Latin dances. It is important, once again, to learn the proper pieces so that we can create this action well, right? So what we did is we worked on layers. We did a couple exercises. We talked about layer 1, which was stationary motion. Now, what I like to do, like I said earlier, was do that in a formula, right? A plus B equals C, right? A being toed out feet, B being the bending and straightening of the knees, and C is the settling of the hip or the hip movement, right? Our second layer was first position breaks. Now, this taught us how to move forward, back, side to side. We talked about making sure that when we're learning this, we're going to learn how to step on a bent leg, right? Your teacher says this, coaches will say this, very, very important part. But we also talked about while I was stepping to make sure that I keep my feet flat on the ground as I move them. So whatever foot moves, I'm trying to keep my feet flat. Heel and ball the foot on the ground throughout the entire time, right? Then we moved on to our third layer. Our third layer was breaks in 4 directions. This was starting to teach us how to do Cuban motion and rock steps or change of directions, right? So our exercise was forward, in place, together, forward, in place, together, side, in place, together, side, in place, together. Implementing the things we've learned in layer 1 and layer 2, right? So those 3 layers are a great way to get started and developing Cuban motion. We did talk about the 2 different types, different rhythms. We got our rumba action, which I said was a more full action of Cuban motion. Remember, we have the 3 S's. Settle, step, and straighten, using those forward, back, and side, right? Then we had our merengue action, which was just our switch, right? Settle and step, settle and step, settle and step. right? So that's how we learned how to use them. We did them in rumba, cha-cha, mambo, and merengue, right? So that's kind of what we went through today, and that's our recap. I'd like to thank you all for coming and joining me for a little quick Cuban Motion lesson. I hope this was a good start. This is a great way to get you started with the Cuban Motion and just learning how to implement in your dancing. So thank you for coming, but before I leave you, I'd like to leave you with a quote from Catherine Murray. Put a little fun in your life. Try dancing. Thank you again, and best wishes from our Arthur Murray family.